Welcome to another episode of the 2025 Property Report podcast by Property Guru. Artificial intelligence is changing how we design, build, and experience spaces, from predictive analytics and property management to AI-assisted design and smarter home solutions. The technology is rewriting the rules of real estate. Now, in this episode, we speak with the esteemed judges of the Property Guru Asia Property Award Series to explore how AI is transforming every stage of the property journey. We have with us the president, Malaysian Institute of Architects, or PAM, 2020 to 2022, and the chairperson of the Malaysia judging panel, Datuk Architect Azumi Harzani Ismail.
Hey.
We also have the chairman of Asia Martech Society and the chairperson of the Mainland China judging panel, Ken Ip.
G'day, everyone.
The director of Connexus Studio Company Limited and a member of the Thailand judges, joining us for the first time, Kun Nicha Asaranatakul.
Hello, everybody.
We have the director of Quantum Analysis Private Limited Singapore and a member of the Middle East panel, Stephen Ohm.
Hello.
And finally, a regular commentator for the series, the head of Real Estate Intelligence at Property Guru Group, Dr. Lee Nigeria.
Hello.
Hello, gentlemen and lady. Okay, for the first question, AI has become a buzzword across industries. But what does its integration truly look like in real estate today, from designs to sales to management?
So my role, at Connexus, we're doing design and build for workplace. So when you talk about AI, right, it comes really early stage in terms of like the planning as well. So, we are now introducing a lot in collecting data, for example, occupancy sensors. So we actually understand how people use the space, and we introduce this using AI to help us analyze those. And in terms of sales and marketing, right, we are also using virtual tours, visualization, 3Ds for our clients to win pitches, as well as, I see a lot of other real estate sector are using that to present their products before the customer buying the products as well. In terms of the operation and management, right? So in terms of the larger building, we see the portfolio management, the AI dashboard that's coming in to tracking the building data. So that would help us to see more efficient management in the longer terms.
Honestly speaking, I wouldn't even call AI a buzzword anymore. If you really think about it, ChatGPT, or more specifically, ChatGPT 3.5, it came out in around November 2022. So we've been living with it for almost 3 years already. So now these days, almost every meeting I attend or every keynote speech I give here, it touches on AI in some ways. So I sometimes even joke that I've developed this AI fatigue syndrome, because this is probably like my 70th talk or podcast about AI this year alone. But going back to real estate, right? I think when it comes to design, you now got AI who can act like like Tylus, a hyper-intelligent assistant. Especially with Gen AI, generative AI, it can now produce hundreds of thousands of layouts, variations within minutes. While things like predictive algorithms can now forecast how design will perform in terms of like sunlight, airflow, or maintenance costs. Things used to take months or years of manual planning. So this allows architects and developers to experiment, to optimize, anticipate issues way before construction begins. And then from design, I think it flows naturally into sales. So AI now helps developers and real estate agents to understand, for example, buyers at a very, very deep level, analyzing all the behaviors, pricing trends, demand patterns. So things like virtual tours, chatbots can now handle all the basic initial interactions, while all the AI-driven tools can now also provide, personalized guidance, making all the experience now very intuitive without feeling intrusive. So in many cases, a buyer's first agent is already an algorithm. So you can now free up, human agents to focus on more complex decisions, or even to create more high-value managements. and relationships. And last but not least, there's property management. So I think this is where AI quietly delivers is kind of, I would say, the biggest impact. So we've got things like predictive maintenance, which can keeps building running smoothly, energy optimization that can help reduce costs, and also automated workflows to coordinate different operations behind the scenes. I mean, it's not very flashy, but it's where AI touches everyday lives, saving time, money, and headaches. And at the end of the day, yeah, I think AI in real estate has become much like, Google search, something we now use constantly on a daily basis without noticing. So yes, that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Dr. Ken and Sunecha. You have explained a lot, so I don't have to say very much. But I got the opportunity to watch the interview with the CEO of NVIDIA, Jensen Huang. So what he said that for the last 10 years, the understanding of AI mainly focuses on how AI is going to work. So it is about the science of AI itself. It is not about technology on application. So what we have known in ChatGPT, for example, there is the very basic of AI. It is just the beginning. But for the coming years, starting from now and next 10 years, now it is the real application science of AI. So it made me a bit nervous. Am I going to be replaced by AI? As architect, I use tools in developing design, development planning, and so on. Many, many tools. So looking at this, what we are having now is the tip of the iceberg. The actual AI technology in application in our life is coming in a very big way. So from that cue, I start to think of what I'm doing today. For example, in my practice, the AI is no longer an option in my practice today. We use AI as necessary tools, but the way we use it today is as a tool to accelerate the process. For example, in the space planning, we use the AI assistant to do the efficiency analysis in terms of 3D modeling, and of course from 3D modeling, the climate analysis, the local climate analysis, and also on the 3D model rendering. So mainly we use the AI in that sense at the moment, but understanding from what he says in the interview, that is just very beginning. So what in future we are going to use AI more than that. So from the beginning, for example, he's talking about how actually the learning ability of AI has improved from all the researchers and the paper, from the PDF, everything. There is all knowledge that AI, the machine learning, the deep machine learning is capturing. And at the moment, the knowledge is scattered, but the machine is trying to put it in proper integrated way. So this is how human brain is functioning. So in future, we will see the ability of AI to integrate information, to analyze information as good as human brain, but it is going to be super fast. So it's like millions of us thinking about something. So with that, we will know that in future, development or real estate activity is not just about designing, building, or trading a property. There will be a deeper understanding about human behavior. Then from there, even the marketing real estate agent can start to do the analysis. What are the future demand? Not just the current analysis, but the prediction in the future. But for the moment now, I just share the market trend in Malaysia. Double story terrace houses sure can sell in Malaysia in the local context. But with the ability of AI to do the future prediction, then maybe we can see more building typologies rather than the standard one. So this is where the market is going to be more challenging. And of course, understanding that as well. As architect now, we are dealing with a very demanding and difficult client because clients today also has exposure to AI. They know that we also use AI. The things that we used to complete in 2 weeks, probably they want it within 2 days. So everything has been accelerated. So I think the key point that the acceleration process really going to make AI something that will change our future to be the better. So that we hope that we will have a better future with AI.
Zumi, I really agree with you. It's really, we're right at the beginning, and the beginning of a very, very big change. And as Ken said, it's going to keep changing, but that AI is with us now it's been a certainty, and in 3 years it's gone from being something new to being something that, as we've all said, every single step of every single thing that we do, we interface with AI somehow, normally directly and definitely indirectly, usually both, and usually very intensely. From the very early intentions and envisioning of real estate, through to the initial design aspects, through to the detailed design, through to the construction, through to the operational realities of real estate, AI is with us every single step. It's amazing. Very often AI is viewed as something that speeds up or threatens us, or a combination of those two very often. But I mean, I really I find the experience of AI absolutely fascinating and really exciting. I really see that not only can we go faster, but we can also go deeper, which is just amazing. As you've all touched on, with AI, we can be more holistic, which is another aspect of being deeper, which is amazing. I've been focusing in my career on value and the dimensions of value, and I can see how AI can really liberate that in a fantastic way. So, I mean, AI is with us every step of the way. The competition between AI, between the people that want to make AI closed and proprietary, and where people want to make it more open. And I think that in Asia and the Middle East, for example, as we'll get to later, is more focused on the open, and maybe other places are more focused on the closed. The open is going to accelerate AI tremendously in adoption and in progress. And for the real estate industry, there's so many people doing such amazing, very specific tasks and jobs, from design, from construction, from facilities management and operational management, investment, etc. I mean, it's really, really exciting.
Yeah, I totally agree with Stephen. Your analysis of how AI comes into, and of course all the panelists. My take, maybe I look at it differently because I use AI a lot. I mean, mainly I replace all my data analysts, researchers with AI these days. In the sense that we also see the disruption. The disruption actually occurs at the very junior level of workers. We see undergrads finding harder and harder to find jobs these days. But when we think about AI, right, as I was using it from the early stages, even when I was at undergrad, we actually started using machine learning methodologies, all those things. One of the challenges is actually the data that you use to train the AI. Of course, these days you have a lot of open source data. But when it comes to real estate, and this is where we do kind of demand projections, it's very difficult in certain markets when there's no data. So in Singapore, we are very fortunate. The government democratized the data, transaction data. Suddenly, when we wanted to do the same thing, we have contemporaries in Cambodia and say, hey, let's do AI to think about the housing market. I look at them, what data are you using? There's no platform, nothing. So that is that challenge. And when AI is being challenged in a very data constrained market, we see things like hallucination occurring, where they take in information from other places. So there is always that challenge when we try to build models around it. But that being said, one thing is that it allows us to skip a lot of things. For instance, you don't need to be trained in coding in such a arduous path. In the past, you probably had to learn all the basics. Now you don't. You need to understand basically how to think like a programmer, right? How do you think like an architect? How do you think like a researcher? To be honest, researchers, the more I use, I can tell you, I feel that I'm one of the first few that will be disrupted along the way, because research is basically what people are using it for a lot of the things. So the question is then, how do we keep in front from real estate perspective? One of the key things I always challenge among the analysts, right, is that from looking at sales, right, we have to think beyond what others have been thinking. And to me, the way I use AI is, okay, this is how people are looking at it. What is the other ways that people are not looking at it? And that is that challenge we gave ourselves. But true to be told, when we see how AI integrate, we see that it is replacing functions that are usually done by the junior level. And that is, we see junior valuers, fewer and fewer are joining the industry in Singapore. We see there are fewer and fewer, in terms of copywriters. In the future, we may not have copywriters, it's all AI driven. So those are the things that we will face. And when it comes to sales, I think sales is a much more interesting phenomenon, because sales is still very face-to-face. I feel that direction is going to be more hands-on. In fact, people will feel the comfort level of dealing with a person. Although nowadays, even when we talk to a person online on video, we also wonder, are you an AI avatar? Things are becoming so realistic. So that's my take when we see AI integration from design to sales to even management.
This next question is for Datuk Izumi and Kunicha. From smart design tools to generative planning software, how is AI influencing the way architects and designers conceptualize and deliver projects? Are we seeing more data-informed creativity or constraint?
Like I mentioned earlier, that AI technology is advancing now, although it is at the beginning stage, but there are many developers that to develop more advanced application. So, for example, like the tools that we use in doing the space planning for development. Previously, the ability of the tools is only to calculate the efficiency of land use based on the data that we input. But today, with the plugin, for example, Autodesk Forma, for example, is a platform that allows various plugins to be integrated to do analysis using the AI ability, so that we can analyze multiple options in a very quick time, so to choose for the best. And every option, even when we give all the constraint, the regulation, requirement, then the system will adapt to it to propose what are the best proposal for that land development. And with more data input, the proposal can be more accurate and can be more buildable. For example, when we include in terms of climate data, the wind direction, then the ability of the system to generate better model, more sustainable, and suitable with the local climate. That is what we have today. But of course, people are developing more advanced technology. For example, there is one plugin that can be integrated to the system that when you choose the site, you put in the coordinate of the site, the system, the AI system already capture what is the microclimate in that area in terms of wind direction, in terms of course, sun orientation, everything, so that you can design the building properly that consume less energy, be more sustainable, and it will also integrate the information about the surrounding development in that area. So this is the ability which is already available at the moment. So in future, I believe there will be more advanced ability of AI system. And the other one is that I want to mention that is about planning and development, even in the building design itself. So with the deep learning and multimodal deep learning especially, so it is not just about designing building. So the ability to analyze who is the user of this building and what are the background, cultural context of the user. And then the building can be designed to suit what is the local context, the local culture, and the architecture, the prediction for architecture design, which is probably expected by the user. So these are all the ability that mimicking the ability of human mind, except that with the ability to do it in a very rapidly and accelerating all the process. So it is going to empower the designer, the architect, and also the user to see not just what is in the present design, but also in future. For example, when we develop one plot of land, so with the ability of AI, they can predict what is going to happen in the surrounding development so that you can have a proper planning in terms of infrastructure, the traffic system, in terms of the safety, for example. So there are many things that can be done, many good improvement that can be introduced to the city planning, development planning, and so on. So I believe that the data-informed creativity that we employ under AI technology is very good. But what are the hurdles now? The ability of a good data that can be used in the deep machine learning for the AI technology. At the moment, there are many authorities. For example, in any development in any region, there will be a regulatory system that used to govern any development. Some local authority, they have a lot of data, development data, but they are not sharing the data. The data is not made available to the public, not available to the machine. And some researchers maybe have a good data, but if they are not sharing the data, not sharing the information, so it will give, it will cut the development of the ability of the AI. I think what Stephen mentioned earlier about hallucination, or Stephen or Najia mentioned earlier, the hallucination is a real thing. At the early version of ChatGPT, you ask something and then they start to tell something which is not related to your question. That form of hallucination can become very serious if the data is hidden from the machine. So that's why I think the next step that we should see, even in our design process, that we must input the accurate data so that the machine can analyze, calculate based on the accurate data. But if we do not get the accurate data, not accurate regulatory system, for example, in terms of fire safety regulation, fire safety design, then the machine will not be able to give the accurate solution to our design. So I remember reading article that there's a debate about the danger of AI in building design or even in any structural design if the data is hidden from the machine. So that there may be miscalculated in terms of structure strength. So that's why also that at the moment we use a lot of AI, but to a certain extent we need to counter check. So that's why mainly the process now that being used in my own practice is to generate model and images for analysis, climate analysis, energy consumption analysis. But in actual design, we still need a lot of input from our architects, our planners. So, but I'm very sure that very soon, when the data, the content made more available, then we will have close to perfect AI system that will be very, very good for everybody to use it.
Munasumi has mentioned about selecting the data and validating the data. So I just want to share my experience when I am doing office workplace studies and my own work. I usually collect data of the office utilization data. It's usually customized to that person, that particular organization. It cannot be bought or, so we introduce them some of the technologies that they can install. For example, the occupancy sensor or those sensors that's also looking into their sustainabilities. And those data is collected on the crowd basis. And that is, being collected in a numerous of time, and then we have enough data for that organizations, and then we implemented and analyze and clean those data and see how we can optimize the space or how we can look into something that we can improve. For example, I often find there's many meeting rooms, for example, being booked, but the seat is empty or not fully occupied to its capacity. So those data can help us see the patterns, and there's an opportunities for us to redesign those areas into maybe they need more collaboration hubs, and also rather than wasting the capacity of those areas. But those data, it needs to come back to verified with the people aspect, like the soft data anyway, to see explore this is what we see when data is seeing us, and is this valid in terms of the human using the space? Is there any other soft spot that we have looked after? I think there's also the AI and the data information is guiding us into some of the directions, but cannot be replaced. I mean, it's helping us to see other opportunities, and we can help verify those, right? And having those data, it's prevented us as a designer to design something in the dark and test it out, wasting time doing this and that. And this can be easier for us to measurable. With those outcomes, it can be energy saving, improving experience satisfactions, or even optimizing the space, or creating a more efficient on the return on investment, for example. So this is what I see.
I see Dr. Najia with this thinking face on. Dr. Najia, would you like to add anything to that?
I was just thinking about just now, the discussion about the data and how sometimes, because organizations work in silos, there's no way of integrating the data and how they integrate the data. That is actually a very real situation. Like, how do you integrate some of the information? And sometimes, right, even though when we do research, we also face that issue when we let us find whether human traffic on the website, whether is enhanced by certain statistics, etc. So we have a research question, we put it up in some of the AI platforms in today's all the known AI platforms, and they gave answers that sound so reasonable. But when you look at the research, you don't find that kind of conclusion being made. So many times that is the case, and there's a lot of uncleaning, cleaning to do to unravel that results. So So back to that question, right? That we think about AI, how it's being used, in today's design tools. I think the challenge is also that how does that improve a architect's job, like to come up with better designs, to really think out of the box? Because I think the problem I have with AI in a lot of the profession is that when we think about it, how we become what we are today is because of the journey we went through, be it for architect, for valuers, for sales, for researcher. And the first part of our journey is usually the more laborious and boring stuff, where we do the boring things. But now with AI, we skip doing the boring stuff. But how do we then bridge that gap? So that is always a kind of question for me.
For Ken and Stephen, AI personalization has transformed how we market and sell properties. Now, how are developers and agencies using data and automation to understand buyers better? And where do you draw the line between convenience and intrusion, like Ken mentioned earlier?
I'll try to keep my answer short. I think to me, AI personalization, it's now becoming like a standard practice, not just real estate. But the thing is, unlike Gen AI, where it's predominantly very visual, it's salient, but a lot of these AI personalization is actually working subtly behind the scenes, maybe without you noticing it. So for example, a lot of the tech companies are now using machine learning models to analyze basically everything, from your browsing behavior to past purchases to all of your previous online engagements on social media, etc. So this will allow things like developers to anticipate what buyers want, right? They could potentially highlight the right units, the right area, and even adjust the pricing or the marketing message dynamically according to your data, right? And then automation also makes all of these process much more scalable. So we can now engage thousands and thousands of prospects all at once, and each getting a tailored kind of experience that feels personal. I think that's very powerful. And a lot of large agencies are now using AI agents also to provide these so-called personalized recommendations. They could answer a lot of the queries and then even guiding you as a buyer through the entire decision-making process. For example, whether you can get a loan, right? Who's the best bank to speak to, given your financial status and your background. So it's like having a really, really smart assistant who remembers everything about you, your preference, your trends, your track record, and constantly kind of update suggestions in real time. But of course, as you mentioned, there's always a fine line between convenience and intrusion. So personalization to me is valuable only when it respects privacy and context. So if buyers feel that they're being watched or even manipulated, right? I think the experience will backfire. So for me, the rule of thumb is very simple. Make AI helpful, but not creepy, right? So focus on insights that really help improve the experience. For example, providing faster response, relevancy, like relevant property searches, and even guidance through maybe complex issues like finance and loans, etc. But without really overstepping into kind of like a constant surveillance, like a big brother. So I think at the end of the day, I think AI's power is in its subtlety, how it works behind the scene. So when it's done right, it doesn't just make the process a lot more efficient. It makes buying a property feel like intuitive, it's personalized, and even enjoyable, I would say. So I think this is where developers and agents can really get ahead of the game in the future with AI personalization.
Ben, I think you've really covered it. It's all about personalization, and AI is able to do that really well. It's able to drink from a very, very large pool of information and bring it together, which is really valuable In relation to what you said and the balance between the information and the intrusion, etc., I think that it's going to happen that we're going to be analysed in a way that we've never been analysed before. And it's going to happen. I think the only way around that is through transparency. And that's what I was getting at in my earlier answer in relation to people that are looking at AI from a closed proprietary type basis, and then other people that are looking at it from an open source basis. The thing is that we know that AI is what Ken's big brother is here. And if that's done in an open way, where AI is saying, well, this is what we think your profile is, this is what we think that you want, this is how we are analysing and serving you and delivering you these information recommendations, etc., that's going to be a really, really important dimension. At the moment, we're not there yet. There's such a long way to go. When I was mentioning being AI enabling us to be deeper, in relation to this question, the decisions made in real estate from clients doing their intentions and vision through the designers and even through to the other life cycle periods of real estate. It's really been done at a surface level. A lot of real estate has been location, and then price, obviously, and then some very simple metrics, dollars or ringgit or whatever per square foot or per square meter. And really the decision-making process has been not really data-driven, but emotionally driven. And now, with AI, as everyone's been saying, through the actual vision of the project, through the design of the project, not just only the big picture, master plan, etc., but also those details that Azumi and Nietzsche have been talking about, we can be really, really detailed, really, really data and information driven. And that's just incredible. And it's happening. And purchasing decisions and the decisions about what we make available for purchasing, so the development decisions, the design decisions, even the construction decisions, and certainly the operational facilities management decisions, are all going to be driven by different aspects, and it's going to be less emotional and more analytical. And I think that's a really positive thing. And something that all of us, with our involvement with Property Guru, have really, really focused on is how do we advance the knowledge of the industry and the connection, that holistic views, breaking down the silos, as Naja was saying. AI really enables us to do that, and it's happening now, but we're at the very, very beginning, as Azumi mentioned earlier.
I just wanted to add on to what Ken and Stevens and their points about AI personalization. This is actually very interesting because, when we think about AI, it could help us understand buyers better. But at the same time, right, we see that property seekers are also becoming less trusting. And when they look at our listings, sometimes, and other listings, they become less trusting in a way that they wonder whether AI is being used to render the pictures to make the property looks nicer, everything. So the emotional aspect, like what Stephen was talking about, it becomes very true. So at the same time, the buyers also become less trusting, very interestingly. So what happens is that agents now have this AI tool where they can kind of make, remove all the clutter in the room, make the room brighter with sunlight coming from don't know where. It suddenly looks very nice. And then when they go and visit the actual home, obviously it's a heaven and earth, a kind of disparity. And then there's kind of like, is this a misrep? All those kinds. So that likes that kind of personalization, like, are we going to see what we're going to get, or we are seeing because we like to see that particular unit, and then how AI will eventually market the product to us is is in the way that we were more likely to fall into our emotional impulses. So all these things are actually very interesting, because when we think about drawing the line, it's very hard to draw the line because every time we draw the line, we can also ask AI to undraw the line. How best can you draw the line, without hitting the line, all this kind of things. So this is an ongoing problem, I would say, or an ongoing challenge that when we think about AI personalization, and especially towards later parts, we will see our evolution of how we think about products. I think the authenticity become more important. Like when you see people doing LinkedIn posts, at one point in time, people like the perfect language. Your language must be right, positioning must be right. Now people prefer it to be like authentic. There's some grammar mistakes. This is not AI. So those are the things that we observe.
Now, with AI adoption moving at different speeds across Singapore, Thailand, Malaysia, China, and the Middle East, what lessons or trends can each market learn from one another? Kunicha?
I'm just speaking for Thailand. For Thailand, I think we're still adjusting and implementing a lot of this fast-moving AI integration that's coming into a different sector, especially on real estate. We are trying to implement it, and like Nigeria was mentioning about the data is, some is being collected, some is not being collected. We need to use the data smartly to be able to analyze what we want to see. So this is what I'm thinking of Thailand.
I think earlier someone mentioned that when we talk about property or real estate, we always mention location, location, and location. To my surprise, that when I watched the interview with Jason Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, he mentioned that everything that moves will be AI. So that we are moving towards that, including self-driving cars, including all this, even as simple as the vacuum robot. So, to my understanding, that with this technology, AI technology that coming to our life, then location is no longer the element for decision in making where do you stay. So location does not matter anymore. Okay. For example, now we are in different places. We can meet. We can have a meeting, even if we need to physically meet. Okay. With a self-driving car, it does not matter. I can travel for maybe 1 hour. I can do my work. I can read newspaper while traveling. Then location no longer become the deciding factor in investing in property or in buying properties. So that is going to be the major change in the real estate. So, and looking to that, the most important is that what is surrounding you. It's not just about location. Last time, location is very important because the distance between your home and your workplace. But in future, what surrounding you is very important. You can be somewhere in the suburb, but the facility that you have in that local community or surrounding you is very important, because you still have almost instant connection through the online, through the system. You want something, for example, let's say you want to buy something. Then with the technology, the future AI technology, you can have drone deliver the goods to you. You don't need to go to restaurant. Drone can deliver food to you. So I believe that, in future, the change in the way that people decide in investment in property, in real estate will change. So it's no longer location. So, but what they can get in that particular place. Distance is not an issue anymore. And that future is coming very, very soon. In fact, in the local Malaysian situation at the moment, people are moving away from the city center. To them, it does not matter if I stay 60, 70 kilometers away from the workplace. Some of them work from home. Some of them, they use, at the moment we have the ride-hailing system. They do not drive, so they just call the Grab or any ride-hailing, take the public transport. They can do the work. They can open the laptop and you can access to the internet everywhere. So location is no longer matters to them. And this is the generation that we have today. Looking at the generation in future, I believe that location is no longer an issue at all. So with the improvement in this technology, what is important that although that the data sharing between nations, for example, the data sharing on real estate transaction trend in China, Singapore, through this sharing, a lot of things that we can learn. Maybe we are going to discover something which is new at that time that we can't think of today. But I still believe that with the technology, it empowers people to deliver better localized development precinct, not just like what we have today. For example, if you need to do a good development, you have to go to the city center because you have all the infrastructure. But I believe in the future, you can have a good development, localized development, even if you are away from the city center, because all this technology that is coming to you. So I believe it's coming very, very soon, and it is not a surprise that people are not going to work in office anymore in future. So we just need to be prepared with that. So when looking at the prediction of the tech people, so a giant tech company like that, when they mention that anything that moves will be robotic. So can we imagine that it's already happening in China, robotic construction. So design by architect designer is something that is not difficult because you're dealing on paper in your computer. But robotic construction is something physical. And when the statement said that anything that moves is going to be robotic, you will not see a single worker in construction in future. Everything prefabricated, assembled at site. And that's going to be the direction of future. So development can be anywhere, and you can get purchaser anywhere, as long as you provide a good supporting facility.
Let me try to go back to the question, right? The question here asks, why is AI adoption moving at different pace across different countries? I think it's natural because each region has its own regulations, infrastructure, and customer expectations. So, and that diversity exactly where the lessons can come from, right? And I myself is a tech investor, so maybe I can share my thoughts from that perspective. So let's take Singapore, for example. Like we all said, it's highly structured, regulated, and its tech infrastructure, I would say, is top-notch. So meaning a lot of developers there now are generally better at integrating AI for things like operational efficiency, your predictive analytics, and even property management. So lesson here is strong data governance combined with like a robust infrastructure can create a more reliable, scalable environment for AI applications. And then on the other hand, you think of Thailand or Malaysia, as Izumi pointed out, right? The market is relatively younger. So in a sense, it's more fragmented. So which means here, the AI adoption is often driven by, the startups with experimenting with different innovative solutions. So naturally, with that kind of energy or agility and experimentation, it can unlock more creative solutions that a larger or more regulated market may not move too slowly to kind of explore. And then a few of you touched on China, right? China, on the other hand, its data is not a problem. They have massive data sets and they have really, really high AI penetration. So most of the developers there are now leveraging machine learning, AI at scale for everything from pricing, demand forecasting, even generating buyer engagement kind of insights. So the insight here is scale actually matters. And having the right kind of data backbone will allow AI to create really powerful, predictive kind of capabilities. And then I think, let me just throw in an extra region, which is included in the question. You talk about Middle East, right? They are also moving at different pace because their focus, in my opinion, is often more high-end developments or flagship projects. So I think AI, in a sense, it's used to enhance more the luxury experience. So I've mentioned time and time again, the virtual walkthroughs, things like your immersive visualization, your VR, AR technology, and even, I would say, concierge-style AI services. So I think the lesson here is that AI can create a very differentiated experiences that can cater to a very specific market segments. So in other words, across all these different regions, I think one trend is universal. The faster adopters ain't just using AI as a new or novelty tool. They should be integrating it to end-to-end, from design to sales to management. And then markets can learn from one another by combining, for example, Singapore's great governance, China's scale, Southeast Asia, agility, and Middle East focus on experience, right? If you can just cherry pick, all the best bits, you get yourself the best cocktail or cooking recipe, so to speak, for success.
Ken, I think you're right. I think all the different regional differences be viewed as different ingredients that can be looked at and taken and selected. And like Izumi was saying about location, and that location, was arguably the number one parameter for real estate. And now it's almost becoming irrelevant. If it's not, maybe it's already irrelevant. And that's the thing about AI, is in relation to connection and collaboration, AI is driving that at an amazing pace, and also in a very deliberate, measured way as well. For example, the Asian GCC summit, has been obviously very focused on AI, and talking about Malaysia, Malaysia and the Pre-Site, an Abu Dhabi listed company focused on AI, and the Malaysian government entity focused on AI, MMI. They have joined forces and are really focused on how do we advance our societies, taking the experience and focus on experience by the Middle East, and what the Malaysian government is focused on, and making sure that they harness AI in very progressive, joined up thinking ways. And that's what AI is doing for us, and not only at that governmental level, but also at an investment level in real estate. I mean, previously, for people in the Middle East to invest in Asia, or for Asian communities to invest in the Middle East, was a very strong barrier, because I don't really know the costs, I don't really know the areas, I don't really have the data and the information to be able to make a investment decision confidently between those different markets. That's totally changed now. And it is now going to be possible for Asian markets to reach into the Middle East, and Middle Eastern markets to reach into Asia, and do that with a great amount of confidence. And it's not only the investment, but also the design, the developers. Everybody can now interchange and interface between markets, not only within Asia, but also Asia outreaching out to the Middle East and to the globe. And it's really exciting.
I like the way Dr. Ken actually, provide the archetypes of AI for each of the country in terms of agility, and then making it into a menu. I will just touch on the Singapore side a bit, and then just a very short response is that I think one of the key lessons I think from the Singapore side is how do we ensure responsible use of AI? I think from our side is like more of like what are the pitfalls being, at the cautious side of things. So I think generally, if you think about Singapore, we want to be safe, we want to be secure. And so certain things, they like to use AI, but at the same time, we are pretty wary of what are the negative pitfalls. For instance, when people use AI to generate content such that, eventually you create polarization of the society and so on and so forth. Because, a lot of how people are being motivated to do certain things are actually driven by stories, and stories now can be created using AI. So I think when we think about from the Singapore context is really about pitfalls. But when we think about from like Malaysia, Thailand, it's really the opportunity, the kind of agility like what Dr. Ken has mentioned. It's very true. And we look at, when I talk to those Malaysian entrepreneurs, they are using AI in the most fascinating way to integrate like from property management to valuation in different manners that you will never think of from the Singapore side. But of course, then the other thing is what is the downside today? So I think there is this line of like, should you be overly cautious or not be overly cautious? I think that is something that each country, each economy has to figure out along the way.
Okay, everyone, in one word, what does AI mean for the future of real estate? Let's start with Nicha.
I would say personalizations.
I would say empowerment, because it empowers us to make the future better.
I think honestly, it's hard to sum up in one word, because AI in real estate, it's too broad, too dynamic, and touches on so many parts of the industry, right? But if I must pick a word, I'll go with amplification, right? So just to summarize what a lot of my colleagues have mentioned, right? AI doesn't really replace expertise or creativity. It amplifies it, right? It helps, for example, architects explore more ways or more options, right? Design options within a matter of minutes. It allows real estate agents to personalize experience at scale, and also gives property managers insights or predictive insights that can save time and costs. So in short, it makes all of us human smarter, faster, more effective, without taking away the human touch that real estate ultimately relies on.
If I had to choose one word, I hope the word is rigor. Where we can really be more holistic, deeper, stronger, empowered, personalized, and all of the other words that you've used. I really hope that it's rigor. I hope so.
From an analyst point of view, AI means uncertainty for React. Really, because of the way AI is still at the starting phase, right? For every technology innovation, we see that it will create new wealth, it will be disruptive. So it will, like what Dr. Azumi says, right? Location no longer matters. So the whole disruption that it will create and the kind of repercussions really are very uncertain. It's very difficult to measure this whole future of real estate. So uncertainty will be my word.
Thank you, everyone. And that brings us to the end of this episode of the 2025 Property Report podcast by Property Guru. I'm Tina Ryan, your moderator, and it's been a pleasure guiding today's conversation. A big thank you to our guests for sharing their invaluable insights on how AI is reshaping and reimagining the built environment. Now, to our listeners, stay tuned for more discussions on the innovations defining the cities of tomorrow. For more updates and in-depth insights, don't forget to visit asiapropertyawards.com. Once again, that's asiapropertyawards.com. See you in the next episode.